apparently the latest Star Wars one that's coming, which is Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
About a bunch of kids on a ship that nobody ever wanted whatsoever. Apparently, they're kicking off behind the scenes in Lucasfilm because it isn't woke enough. So they're saying it actually might be decent because they hate it.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's decent or not. I'll always maintain this. The only film that's actually given us Star Wars, and it's a different kind of Star Wars, was Rogue One. Everything else that followed that came after that is not Star Wars at all, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So there'll be no chicks with dicks in the Skeleton Crew then?
I don't know, mate.
This is the Spacebook, where we talk about all out there entertainment, pop culture talk around movies, TV, comic books, and more. Whether it's sci-fi and fantasy, horror, or comedy, it could just be plain weird. We'll get it on our radar because it's fair game for our panel to debate, discuss, and of course to take the slash. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks, and that panel that I was telling you about, they are John Yulden and Ian David Diaz. Hello, guys. Welcome back. Been a few months since we've done this, but I'm ready to go. Great to be back and to talk about something that isn't the bloke in the blue box for a change. So we're going to catch up on a few of the things that we've all been watching, that you might have been watching too, and get stuck in here with some good old geeky conversation. So please like the video now, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, check you're still subscribed, and hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications about whenever we're going to do this next. Hopefully it won't be another 5 months, Ian.
Yeah, I'm raring to go. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah, so obviously there's been a lot of view time that's been clocked up in the last 4 or 5 months, hasn't there? I dare say we've made our way through the playlists and we've got our favourite shows, or maybe not, and little movies that have popped up here and there. But when it comes to movies, most of the films that I watch now do tend to be on either Amazon or Netflix, I have to say, rather than, I haven't been to the cinema still in about 2.5 years since I went to see The Batman, which I thought was terrible.
Yeah, so did I.
I know, Roy. I know. So yes, we're going to discuss some TV and maybe some old movies too that we've been binge watching or catching up with over the next hour and however long here. Right, so first things first, I think, Ian, this was your idea, wasn't it, to get back and switch this on again? What have you been watching lately, mate? Because I haven't, I know that you're obviously missing Ncuti Gatwa as Doctor Who. How have you dulled the pain of no further episodes of Doctor Who? What have you been watching?
Well, the thing is, I went to the cinema and I saw Deadpool and Wolverine, which is really good.
So this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is it still bloody hell? Is that still going?
Yeah,
so started in 2008, and this is film number 34. I believe Deadpool versus Wolverine, is it, or just Deadpool and Wolverine? I've kind of lost track.
Deadpool and Wolverine, isn't it? I've noticed. Have you seen it, John?
No, when Dan was talking about things to go back to the cinema for, I haven't been for a while, but this is one that I think I'm going to go up and watch
it's
because
worth it. Yeah, it is. They actually add Deadpool in the credits, when they got the Marvel sign and stuff like that. I think it's the first thing you see.
Brilliant.
They add him in. So now he's part of the Marvel universe because he was part of the 20th Century Fox.
Yeah,
Marvel universe.
That's right.
How do you rate it compared to the other two?
This one wasn't as funny as the last two.
Yeah.
Oh.
There are a lot of bits that I didn't like about this film, but it's incredibly enjoyable. You know what I mean? You can say the negative, you can say the positive of this film. This film is very enjoyable. It is worth your time, especially if you know the 20th Century Fox universe and the Marvel universe, and the comics between Logan, because there is this sequence, and I'm not going to give out any spoilers, where he visits different timelines, I guess, or different universes.
Oh, okay, yeah,
versions of Wolverine.
Great.
And they all correspond to the comics as well as the movies, so it's it's very interesting. Plus, they got some really good guest stars in it that you never thought they would turn up, but they have. There's one really good joke with Chris Evans in it as well. So there you go.
So my question to you as well, from watching it, because they are talking about this is easily, they reckon, going to do $1 billion now for Disney.
Yeah, probably.
I've heard rumours that supposedly Kevin Feige has done a major course correct, that he is effectively going back to the traditional hero movies for Marvel, getting rid of a lot of the nonsense we've had the last few years. Do you think from watching that's likely to be the case? Does it strike you that way, or?
I don't look. I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to do that at all. There is a rumor that's recently surfaced that he's fired all the the people that actually write the scripts. You know, the ones that he's used before. In other words, the activists, script writers. He's fired them all. But I don't know whether that's true or not. But the thing is, though, if they don't get the message now, they'll never get the message that the Marvel universe is a boys' own thing. It isn't a female thing. Females do go and watch this stuff, but the majority of the audience is male that go to see a Marvel film, and they have to cater to the audience. If they don't, if they carry on down this line, then they're going to lose, which they have done, lose their audience.
I mean, we all know, obviously, the girls smell, but you know, it's
cool.
I mean, I'm not going to talk about how I always dunk their heads in puddles or anything like that, mate. You know,
for me, up until when was it? Not long before Infinity War and Endgame, around that time, I was still very much in the habit of going to see every single Marvel Studios film at the cinema, usually with my sons. And more often than not, I did have a good time. But gradually that did start to diminish. And one of the reasons why is because I felt that it was the films themselves were becoming repetitive and smug, and also very overlong, very laboured to keep you in the cinema for like this maximum length of time. So this actually looks a little bit more pointed, fit for purpose. And it seems like there's a real momentum behind it, particularly from the two stars. Ryan Reynolds has been pushing for this for a very, very long time. The running joke is that Hugh Jackman has had to be sort of dragged into it. Isn't it kicking and screaming? But I suspect that's for comic effect, because you wouldn't be attached to this for years and years and years if you didn't want to make the film. And so I do respond to that. But my question really to you, Ian, after you've seen it was, is this film another sort of 2.5 hour round of backslapping that's got no real story to it, that is there just for geeks to sort of to clap and to say, oh, isn't that clever? Oh, I never thought that would happen. Is there a driving story that you can really get behind it? And has this thing got a heart, I think, is the basic question.
It has got a story. The story's very light. So basically, if you want me to tell you the story, it's Deadpool's his timeline's about to be destroyed. Okay. Because according to the TVA, right, and people won't know who the TVA is unless they've seen that crappy show.
Yeah. The Time Variance Authority or something like that.
Yeah.
According to the TVA, there's what in every timeline, there's always one character that if that character disappears, the whole of that line disappears. And lo and behold, that Logan, the film Logan, where obviously Logan dies, that is the catalyst to his whole timeline disappearing. Gotcha. So the TVA hires Deadpool to basically help them, but not correct the timeline, just help them with the other timelines. And they tell him that his timeline is going to be destroyed no matter what he does. So he doesn't accept this, and he grabs one of those calculator things, and he starts hopping different timelines. You see, because there are stakes to that. There are measurable, even though it's an outlandish concept, there are stakes there that I think you can probably relate to, and therefore you can sort of get on board with what the characters being tasked to do. I'm feeling that. That's absolutely fine.
They're doing sliders effectively, but for Deadpool. Basically.
I mean, I tell you what's interesting. Like I went to see it with a packed audience, and a lot of them didn't really laugh out loud like the last two. A lot of them sniggered and stuff like that, and you could feel they were enjoying themselves. Because the first one in particular was absolutely brilliant, wasn't it? It really felt like something that was a proper pop culture moment that everybody just snapped onto. But you realize that in every iteration of Logan, Wolverine, you've never ever seen him wear that mask. And there's a sequence in this film where he wears the mask, and the whole audience just went crazy when he put it on.
Brilliant.
So
Brilliant.
you know what I mean? So there are some nice moments in the film, and the story is very thin, but and you do get a bit tired of the thing. But what's interesting about it is that Hugh Jackman, he really does play it very well.
Yeah.
And his performance is really good, because there's moments where, you know, because he failed his timeline. This version failed his timeline, his moments of sadness and, you know, being lost and stuff like that. But Deadpool never changes. He's just an arsehole all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, with a mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. But Hugh Jackman carries the film, because you care about his character and you want him to succeed. So, and it does work to that degree. There's some really stupid moments in it. There's a moment in it where you just think, what, why?
Yeah.
But overall, it is worth your time going to the cinema. And
has it restored your, if not your faith, your interest in where the Marvel Cinematic Universe could go next, Ian, either on TV or film?
No, because I know that they're not going to change their ways. Because if you watch the Olympics and you watch what's happening in the world, there's no way they're going to. It's going to be a hard task to actually revert them back to sanity. But it's not going to happen soon, and it's not going to happen in the next 7 years either.
None of the projects that are coming next, I think they've announced 3 or 4, haven't they? So there's a new Captain America movie, there's a Fantastic Four film, there's the Thunderbolts. None of them look, and heaven knows what's going on with the TV shows, none of them have made any impact on me at all. And I seriously love the Fantastic Four, one of my all-time favourite comic books. Yeah. But as soon as they announced Pedro Pascal was leading that, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm just out.
Yeah, I mean, Fantastic Four for me, like, you know, I'm a big fan of it, and I've always wanted the Fantastic Four to work, because, you know, it's always been known as the first family of Marvel, and you know, just Galactus itself, you know, as a being is just phenomenal, and like kind of what Ian was alluding to. No matter how good it is on paper, they have this innate skill of just finding a way to cock it up.
Yeah,
and it's frustrating. But on the Deadpool and Wolverine, I think from memory, this wasn't done under Bob Iger's watch. This was Chapek before him who greenlit this one, because he wanted to just get back to making movies that worked and were financial successes, and he was trying to get it, you know, get everything straightened out with Marvel and Disney and everything there. But then obviously he was ousted. Iger's come back, and I don't know whether we'll see more of these R-rated type movies from Disney.
Over here it's not an 18, it's a 15.
Is it 15? Is it?
Yeah, over here, yeah. So
blimey,
it's a 15, but the thing is that they don't go that far this time round with the you know, with the rude jokes and stuff like that. You know, they make jokes like you know, I think the blind woman says that she wants a bit of heroin, and he goes, "You're not allowed to say that. You know, Feige told us that's off you know, off limits." And, you know, there's lines like that and stuff like that. But they do acknowledge the fact that 20th Century Fox is dead now, and, you know, all these characters from 20th Century Fox that was part of Marvel, where have they gone? Blah 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 and stuff like that. So there's some really in jokes in there, which a lot of people won't get if you're not a fan. You totally, like, as I said, when he was trying to find another version of Logan, he was going through different doors and stuff like that, and you see the comic version, you see the X-Men, you know, the 20th Century Fox version, you see all kinds of versions of them, you know, relating to comics, and nobody gets that unless you know the comics, you know. So, but as I said, it doesn't take away from your enjoyment. It's still pretty enjoyable. And Hugh Jackman is the one that makes
obviously, Ian, this film is making a lot of money. A lot of people are going to the cinema, just like you said, to go and see this. Maybe people who haven't been to a Marvel movie for a long time, or perhaps people who just remember the first 2 Deadpool films or earlier X-Men movies and think, you know, that looks like a good time. That simple appeal to promise of a couple of hours of good escapism and a few giggles. So even if it does develop those things, you don't think it'll have any restorative effect on the fortunes of the MCU itself?
No, look, I tell you one thing, right? I'll always say this, right? The most powerful thing for film above everything is word of mouth. Now, this film is good, and I've told couple of friends, I thought it was good and stuff. Like word of mouth is the thing that pushes films beyond, beyond where it's where it's supposed to be and beyond. So word of mouth has gotten out that this film is quite funny and it's very enjoyable. And people have gone to see it, I
believe people have moved back to this. I believe people have moved back to a case by case situation now. They judge what they're going to go and see in the cinema on a case by case basis, not only because it's so expensive, but because there has been so many bad movies and so many franchises that have been dismembered, for want of a better word.
What I find silly though as well about Disney, I think a big own goal is, you acquired 20th Century Fox, but keep the studio going, because okay, there might be films that you don't want to do it under the Disney banner, but you could easily put them out under the Fox banner. And if these things are successes like this one, surely you would.
20th Century Fox doesn't exist anymore. They've literally gobbled it up, and it's part of Disney now. So everything that this 20th Century Fox owned is part of Disney now. So that's why Deadpool's part of the Marvel universe now.
Yeah, I know, but my thoughts were, if you still own if you own legally the IP, then surely you would at least keep that IP in the studio open, because didn't they do this like 30 years ago? They had like Touchstone and where they used to do sort of more adult films with that. I
agree with you. I think they've been very reckless. I think 20th Century Fox, a Disney company in small letters underneath that golden logo, that could have worked beautifully, and they could have kept a different tone of. I'm not saying they would have left the any of the superhero movies there, but I think that not keeping it going to develop something else was quite reckless, and a part of cinematic history that's been sort of discarded with those movies. I mean, that does sort of bring us around, I suppose, into the other thing that you wanted to talk about, because you've been revisiting the Alien series, have you?
I have. I watched Alien a couple of days ago and Alien 2, getting ready for the new one that's coming out. And Alien, is still a good movie. It
so it's made 45. It's 45 years old this year, isn't it? So 79.
Yeah.
And it's still. I think the last time I watched it was around 3 years ago. I must admit, I still found it riveting. I thought it was very crisp to look at, and the story and the characters were as punchy and as engrossing as ever. And yet it's the best part of half a century old.
You know what really makes me sad? You just mentioned the how many years have gone by since Alien was released. And it does make me feel sad when I watch some of my heroes or some of the people I admire the most. I'll mention one, which is Phil Collins. And I see Phil Collins now. It makes me sad that Phil Collins is like he is now. And I saw an interview with Tom Skerritt a couple of days ago on stage, and he's so old, and he was trying to talk, and his voice was croaking. My heart just broke. I'm like, you know what, I've seen this guy in so many movies. I understand people have to get old, but it's just, you remember him when he's prime. And then I'm watching Alien, and and then it all comes flooding back. This guy was in loads of movies and stuff like that. Great.
And obviously John Hurt, Yaphet Kotto, also no longer with us.
So, but the thing about Alien is that when you watch them both back to back, the Alien and Alien 2, you see the difference between the styles, and see the difference between performances and everything. Like the actual alien insides, like the bit in the egg and stuff like that, they all look so real, because I read that they used chicken guts and, and turkey stomach and all that. So actually, that's why it looks real. Then when you watch the second one, everything looks. They don't look as real. Do you know what I mean? They're like the slime. Yeah. Remember when Dallas is in the tunnel and his hand goes in the slime? I mean, the slime compared in Alien, the first Alien, to the second one, in the second one looks like bubble gum or something like that. It's so stretchy. You're like, that can't be real. That's like bubble gum. Do you know what I mean? So those kind of things, you kind of see the difference between both of the styles. So I would recommend you guys watch the first one and the second one, and then
it's quite a legacy, isn't it?
I've watched the second one recently because I got the 4K version through, which isn't a great master of it, I have to say.
Has Cameron screwed that up as well?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, he's from a guy that started doing films about artificial intelligence destroying things. The irony is not lost on me on this. But I mean, Aliens, for me, I mean, I absolutely adore it. I mean, it is just a fantastic war movie for me. And it's just who's going to survive. And look, they go in cocky, you know, and they get overrun. yeah, exactly. The iconic scene for me is just that bit in Aliens where he lifts up the ceiling, you know, and then you see them all coming along, and it's just they start dropping down, and it's just iconic, you know. And are you going to go and watch the ones after this? Because I've never gone beyond 3.
No. I've seen the others, and I don't rate them at all.
Yeah,
I'll tell you one thing about both films that is quite beautiful to me. Right, just to me, I don't know what you guys think, is the model work. You know their model,
but it's sublime.
But you totally accept what they do. Like there's a sequence in it where the Nostromo gets released from the big ship. I can't remember the big ship's name. And
the drop ship.
The drop ship, and then it flies towards the planet. You know that it was just black cloth, and it was just shot in a black room, and then they went on another pass, and they put the planet there, and they couldn't go over the planet because you would see right through it. So it was like Space 1999 effects, and that won an Oscar. Would you believe? And that was a time when they had remote cameras and stuff like that, but yet they chose to do Alien. It's so stark, isn't it? Particularly Aliens as this stark militaristic quality about it. Whereas elements to the first one, it's all very lived in. But there's a beauty to that, which Scott definitely goes back to in Prometheus in particular. What's interesting about Alien is that one thing I've noticed about Alien is that it's all about Mother, isn't it? So when I watched it this time round, I realized that Mother screwed everyone. She really did. She stopped the ship. She was programmed to stop the ship to that beacon so they can go out there and bring back the weapon. Because the humans feel hapless and as well as isolated.
That's what hit me the last time I watched it. And all of those themes, because they're similar themes. I don't think any of the films are retreads, but they're obviously very similar in how the plots are mapped out. But they kind of say different things about where humanity is at that precise point. And you can see that the things that all of the directors choose to sort of the hooks they hang them on, with particularly the 4 initial movies of the Legacy. They're very particular to that precise time in history, I suppose, not even pop culture history. But you think about how Fincher tried to sort of par it right the way back, and then the guy who made the 4th film, I always forget his name. It's like a treble belt, the French one,
the French guy.
Again, themes of cloning and all those sort of things, which were very topical at the time. And it's no different with the first two films. It's just that they're handled by visionary directors, aren't they?
Well, I have to say, in Aliens, I mean that final scene where you see the Queen, and that's practical. Yeah, you know, and it is just incredible how they designed that and how they created that. I mean, it's a wonderful work, isn't it? I always laugh when people sometimes say, and I've had this before, where people go, "Oh, you just don't like female characters." Ripley is one of my favourite characters and is a complete badass, you know, and it's she takes control of the situation when, I forget his name, but he's sat there and he doesn't know what to do when they're all coming out, hatching out, and
Foreman.
Yeah, and she's basically saying, "Get her out of there," you know, and she takes over at that point, and then from then on, you know, it's her running the show pretty much.
He does say he's never been in true combat. He says that, doesn't he? So he's only done simulations of combat, so so the real thing for him.
Obviously, when you look at the first 2 films, I think that practically there are some scenes that you don't think about in between viewings. But there's a massive chunk of both those films where, just as you described, John, in fact, both of you have just described particular scenes, and I can see it in my mind's eye. And obviously, I've seen them just as often as I've seen the rest of the movies, but they still live there. I can still picture them because of that, how they made me feel. And I don't wish to slight David Fincher or the director of Alien Resurrection in any way, because I think that particularly Fincher's a great storyteller, but I don't think he was a visionary director then, and I don't necessarily think he is now. I think he's a good storyteller. But Scott and Cameron, yeah, there was something visionary about them, particularly at this point in their careers, that sort of that, I don't know, just the films, they retain a sense of something special, something more than a monster movie, which is basically what they are.
Both of them was about motherhood, right? So if you look at both films, it's about motherhood. So basically, the first film is about the mother of the ship decides to screw everyone, and even when they go in the ship, things look like, you know, sexual organs and stuff like that. Yeah, you know, and obviously the idea of a man being impregnated and, you know, a thing coming out. So it's all about, you know, the motherhood. So basically, the people in the ship are the sperms, and the alien comes along and makes whatever. And the second one's about motherhood as well, with Ripley losing her daughter and then getting Newt and stuff like that, and then confronting the mother alien. The third one doesn't have that. The third one is just basically all the stuff that happens in the second one and the first one has that layer of motherhood on both films. Then when you come to the third film, that had completely disappeared. All it was about chasing that alien and alien killing people.
It's quite nihilistic.
Kind of doesn't work really if it doesn't have something deeper. Do you know?
I mean, obviously, the cycle of films that make up the Alien series have continued in one form or another. I think Prometheus, Ridley Scott's continuation stroke prequel was, I think that came out around 2011, didn't it? And a few years later he released Alien Covenant, and there've been rumours about more Alien movies ever since, really, but we've been spared them. But that sale of the Fox studio to Disney has sort of kicked up the dust a little. It's taken a while for them to do anything with the Alien franchise, whereas they did a Predator, I think 2 years ago, wasn't it, that they did a Predator movie in Prey. Taken a little longer for them to look at doing something with Alien, but it is on the way. So there's a new film by Fede Alvarez due at the end of this month, at the end of August, isn't there? It's called Alien Romulus. I think we've had 2 trailers so far. I've watched them both, and you know me, I do like to generally stay away from trailers, but there's something, I think that Alien movies are essentially monster movies, so you know pretty well what you're going to get. It's the proof of the pudding is that which this particular director will look to stamp on the formula to make it distinctive from the ones that have gone before. All eyes will be all over this. There is every time an Alien film comes out, because they're still seen as prestigious, aren't they, John, and special in a way the Star Wars films used to be. So we've got 2 trailers out already. Is this something that you're really amped up for?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. You know, the trailers I've seen so far, I'm just like, wow, this is what I like, and it's the first time in a while I've been pretty excited about a sci-fi sort of genre movie coming out. I think the other thing I was going to say to you guys as well quickly was, I know you two aren't gamers, but if you ever get a chance to play Alien Isolation. It is terrifying. It is basically you're on the ship, you've got a life signs detector, and you're basically trying to evade the alien throughout the ship, and you're hiding in cupboards and everything, and it is very, very well done, and it is terrifying. So if you like the original in particular movie, you would like this.
Do you think the success of that game and other sort of satellite projects has been part of what's convinced,
I think so, because
the producers to take it back to the cinema rather than to do a direct-to-streaming film? Because it's a small film, it's quite a low-budget
film. Because it was originally a streaming, wasn't it? And they decided to put it into into cinema.
No, aren't they still making that series that's completely divorced from?
There's still a TV series coming for Hulu, I understand.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is there one? Okay. Because, I mean, this one as well, from the trailers I've seen, the game I mentioned, there are elements of the game that I can see in it.
Because even I've heard of that game, and I don't game, and I never will. But even I've heard of it.
I trust me, that's the first game in a long, long time I didn't play with the lights off. It's that terrifying.
But the director seems to be saying the right things though about this film, doesn't he? So
I haven't seen anything. I haven't followed the quotes.
Basically, it happens between, I don't know how it's going to work, between Alien and Aliens. So the film happens in between, before Aliens, apparently.
Yeah.
So that's weird.
and I think from the trailers I've seen, and I may be wrong on it, but I actually think it's the original alien from the first Alien.
The actual creature?
Yeah, the actual creature, which is an interesting twist.
There are loads of face huggers and stuff.
Yeah. I think it's the original one, and it comes from that. So we'll have to see. But have you seen the marketing campaign for this at the moment? It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's loads of people on pavements, and they've got like face huggers on them, and
I'm really wary because I've decided that I am going to see this. In fact, I may well break my 2.5-year duck to see this theatrically. I'm not, for example, there's no way I'm going to go and see Deadpool and Wolverine, and I'm sure it's as good as you said, Ian. And I do feel that there's a real momentum behind it, but I think I'll wait until Christmas to see that. I think it looks like an ideal Christmas movie for me. But this, on the other hand, this does look like something I probably need to see at the cinema at least once to get that full effect. And because I've decided I'm going to go and see it, I've actually tried to stay clear of the marketing bull, including any quotes, anything that any of the cast or production crew may say that may put me off them and thus it. Anything to do with any traces of wokeism. And I've never had that from Fede Alvarez on any of his projects before. I've heard nothing but good things about all of his various films.
I don't think it's.
But I'm still cagey.
Doesn't look like.
Doesn't look that way.
No, and it's. I think I saw one thing that I just chuckled at, which was I saw a couple of people saying, "Oh, they've cast another female in the to lead a film," and I was like, thinking, "Have you not seen the original?"
Yeah, but we don't know whether she's going to survive.
Well, exactly right,
but you might die.
But
Alien
exactly
films
right.
Have to be led by Alien films have to be led by women. If you remember, way back in the early 90s, there was talk the third one would be led by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that just didn't feel right at all.
Yeah, definitely.
No.
But this aliens this alien film, what can they do? They really can't do anything. That's why I think this director decided to go in between. He's made it like the second one and the third
going back to
one.
formula.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's what he's done.
I mean, because you're right, because they had to, because the only other route would be to keep going forward post, Prometheus and those films, and it just wouldn't.
I've been saying this for years. The only logical step to go with aliens is for them to come to Earth. Yeah, that's the only logical step, and they keep avoiding it. What you call it?
I believe the TV series. I believe the TV series is actually called Alien Earth.
Well, unfortunately, it's a TV series when it should be a movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I suppose it depends on. It seems it does seem a shame to me. Isn't Noah Hawley, who made that brilliant series Legion? Isn't he leading it?
Oh, is he
writing and directing it? So that's what sort of kept me clinging on. To having any faith in that, because I completely agree with you, Ian. These things, this should always be in the cinema. Yeah, but this was announced some time ago, so it's a case of okay, am I out or am I in? I'm in. So I've been trying to sort of latch on to the good points about it, which are this guy Noah Hawley has made some really good event TV that was to the standard of stuff I'd seen at the cinema. No, oh God, no. Well, there's no guarantees in 2024.
I mean, like what is it? The guy who made Logan, and he got assigned.
James Mangold.
Indiana Jones.
Never made a bad movie, and then makes Indiana Jones the Dial of Destiny,
or otherwise known as the Disney effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the natural sort of shape of the Alien Saga is not dissimilar to that of the Planet of the Apes series. There's an inevitability, isn't there, to it, whereby sooner or later humanity en masse is going to come face to face with these creatures en masse. And it feels like we've been holding it off cinematically. Creatives have been holding it off cinematically for over 3 decades. It's a bit strange.
It is strange because Ridley Scott, right? You'd thought that he would, when I heard he was making another Alien film, was like, yeah, great, yeah. And then what did we get? We got some kind of stupid, I don't know, prequel. He was thinking too deeply about it, and this alien that comes and creates us and all that rubbish. I'm like, where's the alien? Where the
Well, he didn't make a monster movie, did he? He made a sci-fi movie, which is fine, but people wanted a monster movie. And he thought that by removing Alien from the byline, from the top line of it, that it would meant that people would not want that monster movie. But no, this is a prestigious line of movies. It was very woolly thinking on Scott's part. Under these circumstances now, I can see why they've gone. I can see why they've gone here. What are your predictions for Alien Romulus, Ian? I mean, do you think that people are going to flock to this?
I think if word of mouth is powerful. If he gives it a good time, and look, the things that he has to do is he has to basically give you what you want, but also give you something else, right? So just thinking about certain things that you expect one person to survive, maybe 2 people would survive in this version. You never know, so that might be something new, or even 3. Do you know what I mean? Or all of them get killed.
And there's got to be something that will justify the continuance or the recommencing of this series of films. So there has to be something new. I agree.
I remember somebody said that I think I looked at some YouTube video, and this person was talking about why characters needed backstories. Characters don't need backstories. Like in the trailer, it's something I couldn't get clear, but it's something about these 2 characters that get on the ship to go there because they need to do something. It's like a backstory for them. I don't know if you got that, John, when you're watching the trailer.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, definitely, I did.
Do they need a backstory? That's the question.
No, I would agree with you. Really, I think as long as the characters are well written, you can just jump into it, and and it'll just take you away. I think personally, this is going to be a success. I would say that this is going to be a. I would say this is going to be a plus £500 million return for them. So, but it goes back to what you said a few minutes ago, Ian. It's all about word of mouth. If people come out and they're like, oh, that was brilliant, and it starts spreading, that'll be the plus 500 million,
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. As I said, right, they don't, like, it does look like they've got backstories and stuff like that. Something about getting off the planet, something about this or whatever and stuff like that. It's like in the first one, nobody really needed any backstories. Immediately when they opened their mouth, you knew who they were. It just seems they do that a lot now in movies for some reason. Because if you give them a backstory, then you'll feel more sorry for them.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, that doesn't really work.
Human interest. I think most people are still interested in the creatures with the big teeth who have habits of ripping people apart. That's Alien Romulus. It's due in cinemas any day now. So what have you been watching the last few weeks then, John? Have you old stuff, new stuff? How have you been filling up your view time?
Yeah, so I've been, as I've told you guys and some others, I've been racing through X-Files from the beginning, which is superb. And I'm now on season 8. Season 8. Yeah, so that's the one where, spoilers, sort of Mulder's away for a bit. And you've got Robert Patrick comes in as Agent Doggett.
Yeah, I never liked that season.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the season after it is the worst, and it's a hard slog. And I think really they should have ended it when Duchovny said he didn't want to be involved anymore.
The X-Files started in 1993, didn't 31 years ago now.
Yeah.
A phenomena. By I'd say 2 years later, it was an international phenomena. Even in Britain, where that kind of television had sort of fallen out of fashion for a very long time, or was banished to midnight, like Babylon 5 wasn't, or to tea times on minority channels, X-Files got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh, it's
how many seasons? How many seasons of it were there in the end, John? I always lose track.
9. Well, there's the 9 original seasons, and then they brought it back a few years ago, and I think they did 2 seasons of that, which is 10 and 11. And I agree with Ian there. The ones that they brought back, Chris Carter shouldn't have tampered with it again, because it kind of, there were things in the finale of the original run that it kind of he resurrected, and it's like, well, it doesn't make any sense how that's happened, or where you're going. Yeah.
You know what put me off that season you were talking about? The episode where the Brady Bunch episode. That put me off. I was like, no, that's it. I've had enough.
And I think for me, as I was saying, you can't do an X-Files series without Fox Mulder, because it's his quest, it's his crusade. So without him, you just can't. It just doesn't work for me.
As sexist as this may sound, I think you could probably do it without Gillian Anderson. Even
no, totally disagree.
Ideally, I want both of them in there, but I think it could have stood.
I get what Dan's saying, because watching season 8, where Mulder disappears for a while, and she's pregnant, and they then switched her to being the believer and Doggett to being the skeptic.
No, and that did work. That did. Well, it was intriguing for a little while, wasn't it? But they didn't stick with it for as long as they could have done, did they?
No, exactly. Yeah,
why it doesn't work without Gillian Anderson is because Gillian Anderson was the one that didn't believe, and it's like a coin without tails without a head. You can't have just Mulder, because then he'll just go crazy and just get killed. I mean, I remember there's loads of episodes where Scully had saved Mulder, just go straight ahead and dive straight into the conspiracy and then get in trouble, and then she'd have to go and find him, whatever, so I don't think you could have had a show without either one of them, tell you the truth.
No, and also I think those two aside, who are superb in the role, you had some excellent supporting cast. I mean, you had Skinner, who was assistant director Skinner, Mitch Pileggi, you had the cigarette smoking man, you had Alex Krycek, you Mr. X, you had Deep Throat in season 1, and it went on. Maria Karavovis, or whatever she was, and it just kept going, and we've talked about it before, about the movie came in 98, and it was a superb movie, and I still remember that first scene where they're going across the snow. And then the cavemen in the cave with the oil, and it's so good. But with the Doggett season, there is a few good stories in there. I mean, there's one at the moment that I've just finished, which is Mulder's come back. He's no longer in the FBI anymore. Spoilers, but he's effectively, Doggett has been sent to an oil platform, and Mulder cheats his way into getting on there, pretends he's an agent to get on there as well, and they're working together. But what they did is good concept with the black oil. It's an oil rig pumping up oil, and it's the black oil that possesses people. So everyone on that platform is possessed, and those two effectively they're trying to survive it, and it's really well done. But you could see in that final season that Duchovny, he didn't want to, he didn't want to be there.
Contractual obligations.
Just a little trivia here. Do you know they started shooting in Vancouver when they first did season 1? Okay, and do you know the reason why they moved to LA? Wasn't
it because Duchovny moved? He was living there.
No, it was because it took ages to do Gillian Anderson's hair, because of the climate out there.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
this
not
sounds like bullshit to me.
No, I'm not joking.
Okay.
They could have cast me then. I would have saved them money.
He literally said it on a talk show. I think it was, I can't remember who it was, and they were both on. And the reason why they moved to LA was because to do her hair, it took so long. Literally, let's just get it back to LA.
There are a lot of fantastic facts around a series that lasts this long. I mean, it ran for so many seasons, John, and it's tied to such a precise time in TV and entertainment history. Is this a series you can go back to regularly? Because it's quite a commitment to watch something that lasts the best part of 10 seasons and a couple of 100 episodes, isn't it?
I would say I'd probably go back to it every couple of years because I love it so much. And I think being a Doctor Who fan, when Doctor Who went off the air, this became my kind of replacement for it.
Gotcha.
It was in that kind of field, the scares and investigating, aliens and monsters and things, and it was just perfect for me. And that image you just put up there, Dan, that is just an iconic story. The two stories. Yeah.
I was going to say that they had so many stars in the episodes. They had Jack Black one. They had who's the girl that played who was in that wedding thing with all the what's it called? I mean, that's so many stars. No, that one where the girl was getting married. What's it called? Who's that star? She was in the last Wonder Woman film. She played the villain.
Oh, the Bridesmaids film you're on about.
Yeah.
I know you mean. Used to do Saturday Night Live. That one.
Yeah, she was in one. Felicity Huffman was in the Alien one where they were in the snow. That was terrific. I mean, there was loads and loads of stars in this before they became. What about the guy who played? He was in Austin Powers, played the son. He was in one episode.
Yeah, he was.
Vern Troyer.
Yeah. I was just when you watch it, you just realize there's been so many stars in this.
There was also what's her name who went on to be in Firefly.
Of course,
Yeah, she was a young girl and it gets abducted, but there's some really creepy stories in this one, in this series, and again, when I talk about Doctor Who, and I think Doctor Who for me is always, autumn, winter, when the rain is hammering against the window and it's really dark outside and the wind's going, and I can put on something like the Daemons. It's the same for the X-Files for me. I can literally put that on and I'm just in perfect bliss. It's that good. And
I have never watched it all the way through since it ended. I've gone back and I've watched selected episodes for either because my kids have asked me about it or because the mood has taken me. I've got them all on DVD in enormous digipack, the original releases that were all numbered and everything. So I've got all of those because they probably need. I'd love the Blu-rays, of course I would. I think they've been deleted though, so I'd probably never get those. So, but it's not a series I've ever gone and watched all the way through. I think every time I hear somebody talk about it so passionately, I remember how much I enjoyed it at the time, how much it meant to me, how much I would never miss it. And I agree with you, some of the seasons of it were better than others, but I never felt that I'd wasted my time at the end of a season of the X-Files. There was always a few sort of diamonds in the rough, or it was never a question as to whether I was going to be there again next season, for example.
X-Files always reminds me of. I used to have a job in post-production. And I got promoted in the graphics department because I was the last person to get promoted in the graphics department. My boss always used to say to me, there's a job that's coming, but it's going to take you till 4 o'clock in the morning. And I would go, oh, please don't give it to me. And the way he persuaded me is goes, we've recorded the X-Files episode. It's there. It's on VHS. You watch it after you've done the show. You can order all these pizzas and get a cab home when you're done. You know what I mean? So X-Files always reminds me of working really late in the morning because they used to literally tape it for me to persuade me to do the job.
Before this, the only thing that I'd seen Duchovny in was Beethoven, to be honest, in the early 90s, as he was trying to take over the dad's business, wasn't he? And
I've not seen that.
Yeah, with his missus the
thing that I saw him in was Twin Peaks. He played the transvestite FBI agent.
Yeah, and see, this is the thing. Sometimes a role comes along and just the perfect person, it just works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They fit that part, and I couldn't imagine anyone else playing this role now. It's just
it's him. It's
David Duchovny was a fabulous actor, or still is. I mean, I thought he was fantastic in Californication. That's seriously one of my favourite TV shows of all time. I've seen him be great in other movies in both dramatic and comedic roles, and in some ways I think it's a pity he's not a bigger star than he actually is. On the other hand, I do get the impression that David Duchovny has walked the path, generally speaking, that he would have chosen. I know that he struggled with some addictions and demons, but seems to have come out of it, generally speaking.
He's got a band. He's in a band now, isn't he? I think he plays a lot of music now, and I think that's a big love of his, from what I've seen. So that's great. And I think it was only a couple of weeks ago he someone asked him about X-Files, and I think he said, well, the door's not closed, but he, effectively along the lines, he said, I could never do it without Gillian and Chris Carter.
That's true.
Yeah.
Which
I think
he's
right. I think he's right at this moment in time. But every time I hear you guys talk about the X-Files, and we have these conversations quite regularly, don't we? I think, I really want to watch this again, and I really want to check if the Blu-rays are available again, and all those kinds of things. So yeah, it has. You've taken me to that place, yet again. Obviously, there's so much that's trying to reach for my attention in the streaming age. At the push of a button, anything is there across Netflix and Prime in particular, but obviously Disney Plus and other platforms are available all over the world. But there's something that's certainly been on my radar, John, as a possible. Again, another thing that harkens back to the 90s, and you mentioned it to me privately as well earlier on, didn't you? So I understand you've got this show on the starting grid as well, haven't you? Batman: Caped Crusader on Amazon Prime.
I have, and I'm going to check it out. There's some things. Again, as always, I've seen things pop up that I'm not impressed with, but then like everything, you've got to get your own view on it by watching it yourself and seeing what you think about it. And I've heard some people say about the fact, it's Batman doesn't carry a gun. Well, the whole point of this is meant to be Batman set in the 40s, and when Batman was in the 40s, he did carry a gun originally. That was what he did. He was the detective. So I haven't got a problem with that. But, part of me, because I'm such a big fan of Batman, the animated series, and Batman Beyond.
Who isn't?
Yeah. It's something what, if I see something like this, I've got to check it out, and see what it's like. And I'm a realist. It's never going to be the animated series ever, because that is just on such a high level for me. But
and to be fair, it was 3 decades ago. I mean, I understand that Bruce Timm's developed this, and they did ask him initially to simply bring back the animated series, but it was his decision to actually create something in a similar vein, but technically a different show and a different reality. He felt that he didn't want to go back and tell those stories again, or versions of those stories in that world in precisely the same way as he'd done 30 years ago. So I can respect that creative decision. And just like you say, the Batman that carried a gun, that wore these smaller gloves rather than the gauntlets that we later see, I think there's enough flavour in this to get me quite excited. It looks beautifully made. It's a 10-episode season. It dropped on August the 1st. Yeah. It has that noir quality that the animated series did have. So this looks like I should be all over it, but I'd just like to prioritise what I'm watching at any given time, and the pictures do look great. There's only 10 episodes. I'm thinking, how bad can it be? But then again, of course, and I haven't seen any reviews. I've not watched any videos. I've stayed away from all opinions of this, because I really do want to make up my own mind about it. Obviously, the voice actors are all new as well. We've got Hamish Linklater is voicing Batman. Obviously, since the sad death of Kevin Conroy, of course, they've got to go for a different sound to the character as well. So they've got Hamish Linklater in as Bruce Wayne / Batman, and Christina Ricci voices Catwoman, and the cast list is made up of some very familiar names, not just other names you will know from other animations, but some movie star names as well, like Minnie Driver, and there's people like that involved. And it does have a look of a quality production about it. But then again, so did Masters of the Universe Revelation. That's the only thing that is holding me back. I remember when this was announced, Ian, all the way back in May 2021, on this show, we talked about this, and in next to no time, the project was shut down. It was shut down just over a year later, sorry. So it was originally for HBO Max, and HBO Max never became what they intended it to be, despite the success of the Snyder Cut and other various things. It never did become the success that it was supposed to be. And so production of Caped Crusader was completely closed down. They shopped it around Netflix, all the usual places, before it found a home at Amazon. So it's been a long time waiting for this.
Do you know what?
So I'm determined to give it a go.
Do you know what, Dan? The two things that concern me about it the most are, one is J.J. Abrams' involvement with it, because it was his
it was
he
developed
heavily
under
involved.
his watch because he had that golden handcuffs deal, didn't he, with Warner Brothers for a time.
Brothers.
I understand he's not there anymore, but he was there long enough to have potentially have done some damage.
Exactly right. Yeah, and I think the other thing that just concerned me a little bit was David Zaslav, who runs Warner. He passed on it, and that's why it got shopped around.
I passed on it because I've seen it. So
okay.
How many of them have you watched, Ian?
2 episodes. That was enough for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you a fan of Batman the Animated Series? Or is this something? Yeah.
Yeah. This one has a female Penguin, voiced by Minnie Driver. Batman's hardly in it. They have 2 females kissing. They have people fancying the female Penguin, which is this big woman. None of it makes any sense to me. I just gave up after the 2nd episode. This is obviously a bait and switch, just like He-Man, and I do not want to go anywhere near this show anymore. Sorry, but that's just me, right?
See, a lot of the things that you've said don't necessarily put me off.
No, because I see it.
What does put me off is the idea that this is a Batman series with next to no Batman in it. It's called Batman Cape Crusader. There are plenty of other Batman satellite properties that Gotham, for example, Batman is Batman before Batman. There's completely separate Batman comics they could have adapted if they would wish to make a Batman series or a crime series set in Gotham without Batman, such as Gotham Central. There's even entire properties and brands that could have just hinged around villains if they'd have wanted to do that. But to make a Batman series without Batman seems, or could that just have been the 2 that you saw, Ian? Or
I don't know, and I don't care. When I sniff woke, which this show is completely woke, I abandon it. I will say this again, right? Honestly, this woke stuff, and everything that's going through the world's evil, and I just don't want to be part of it anymore. So,
I can't think of a single good reason to gender swap the Penguin.
Do you know what? There's 2 elements of this that are the reasons for it, in my opinion. One is I agree 100% with Ian on it, and that is the fact that it's a woke thing, and it is horrible and it's entirely repetitive now. But the second thing is J.J. Abrams and his crew have got this history of they do a slight change to characters. And I think I've seen from a few areas where supposedly this is a merchandise thing, whereby if they're slightly different to the originals, they effectively get a merchandise run on it. Potentially, they can actually profit from it.
Are you talking about the design?
The design, yeah.
Okay.
So if they're slightly different in style or character, then they get that. So race swapping them or gender swapping them obviously fits that bill.
Do you know that in LA right now, again, I was talking to my friend a couple of weeks ago, and he lives in LA, and he's basically an actor, and he was saying there is hardly any work in LA at this moment in time. People are suffering big time. And then when you talk about Bruce Timm coming to this series and making this absolute crap, you just got to put it down to he needs the money. That's all. If he had the choice and he was quite wealthy, he probably would never have done this show. And you'll know what I mean when you start watching it. I mean, 2 episodes was enough for me. That was enough. And I just thought, no, I can't be watching this.
10 years ago, Tim did, for the 75th anniversary of Batman, I think it was, he produced a short film called Batman Strange Days, which looked very similar to this. It was very noirish. It was, I think it only lasted about 15 minutes, maybe.
It's sort
of like a proof of concept for this entire look. It had that 1940s feel. I think it was next to black and white. I think this is an itch that he's been wanting to scratch for a long time.
It's become. Look, people need to need to live, right? Yeah. And so, look, I don't know the situation between Bruce Timm and the production company. Maybe he was all for this. I do not know. But I do know one thing. There's hardly any work in LA for actors and a lot of the special effects guys. People are abandoning LA. They leave in LA for New York and stuff like that. And don't take my word for it. I can only tell you what my friend told me. And I've come to the stupid conclusion, obviously, that Bruce Timm did this for the money. And I don't blame him. He has to feed his family. He has to feed...
What's the main reason for leaving LA then? Is it just because they can't get parts? No work at all, is it?
No work. There's no work at all. There's no work going. Right. I mean, crews have been sat down. They're being, it's just, there's just nothing happening down there. It's crazy.
What do you think's caused that then? Do you think, is it just out of money, or is it just because of...
It's money, and also the fact that the people that are actually seasoned writers and seasoned actors, they can't get any work because of this DIAI, whatever it is, thing going through the whole of LA. And I'm not even making this up. As I said, I can only tell you what my friend told me. My friend's moving. He's moving to New York. He's literally picking up.
He's just had enough.
He's had enough. He can't get any work.
That's a shame. Yeah,
because he's a white male. He's a white male, apparently. No, he is. Sorry, apparently he is. So he can't get any work. It's crazy. Also,
I mean, going back to the Batman series. I mean, you'll know this, Dan, as well from being a comic book reader. I can kind of get away with it in my head and watch it because I can say, "Oh, this is an Elseworlds," exactly. and I can do it. I can do it that way and go, "Well, okay, it's in its own universe."
If I can accept that Batman was once a cowboy called Bruce Wayne, or lived in Victorian London, and they've swapped and changed those characters many times in print like that for those limited runs or graphic novels or whatever, then potentially, to be fair, potentially gender flipping the Penguin isn't that big compared to that stuff. I suppose it's just because it is, and I don't like using this expression, because it is current year. That's why it sort of boils my piss.
But Batman's hardly in it. See, that's the thing. Why would you have it called Batman Cape Crusade if Batman's hardly in it? I mean, mind you, I've only watched the first two, so I might be, he might come back big time on the third one. I think this is obviously, again, a lot of kids will be watching this, and again, you've got two female characters kissing in this, and it's like, well, if you don't get it, they're going for the kids.
They can try and aim it more at an older audience, sort of teens and ups, however much they want. But when kids see on a menu on Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, a new Batman cartoon, they're going to want to watch it. It's perfectly understandable. I agree with you completely. The 10-part season 1 of Batman Caped Crusader is now on Amazon Prime. It dropped on August the 11th. This being an animated series, I understand that they are actually deep into production of season 2 already, but that does tend to happen with animated shows, whether they're successful or not. I mean, even Velma got a season 2, so I wouldn't necessarily take that as a sign that this is a success. But by all means, let us know in the comments what you think. If you've watched it already, what were your hopes for it? Have they been dashed? Or is this kind of small potatoes compared to some of the wokeness, the woke crimes that have been committed on other brands? Gender flipping one character, but then again, I haven't seen it yet. I'm still very keen to see this. So I'll let you know as soon as I do. We'll probably revisit the subject of Batman Cape Crusader at some point in the future. I have been watching a few bits and bobs. Of course I have. Perilously less new TV by the month. In fact, I find it's worn me down, Ian. The message has worn me down. The fact that when I press play, I don't like bailing on shows a few episodes in it. It's as a point of principle. I feel like I've wasted my time, and I feel like I'm not giving the creators their due. But it's a transaction.
If you keep watching it, you are wasting your time, aren't you?
Exactly.
So that's where I stop. So I don't want to waste my time. So there's where I stop.
I'm spending far less time on the streaming platforms, which is one of the reasons why we have been recording so many of these shows, simply because I haven't been watching so much stuff. But I did see something. There was something that caught my eye, and it's this. Now, I'm not going to tell you how I watched it because it's not on. It's not on any UK streaming platform yet. But I did hear about this show as a breakout hit from earlier on. I think it was premiered in February on CBS in the States. It's called Tracker, and it stars Justin Hartley, who I've previously seen playing Oliver Queen in Smallville a few years ago, and he's been in a show called This Is Us, which is a very popular drama, I understand, which I never saw. This is a guy who's been on TV for the best part of 20 years. Always found him very watchable. And there was something that appealed to me about this. It's been a great success on American TV, and the premise is really simple. So Justin Hartley plays a character called Coulter Shaw, who is a skilled survivalist and tracker who earns a living by assisting law enforcement and being for hire to private citizens to find lost relatives or solve certain mysteries, that kind of thing. So he calls himself a rewardist. So it's absolute nonsense in the same way that a show like The Fall Guy was sort of nonsense all the way back in the 80s. And Justin Hartley, he's what you could call a man's man. So he's very lean, very tall. He lives a very minimal life. And so I picked up on this aesthetic and I thought, this is all looking a bit familiar.
It's the Reacher look, isn't it?
Yeah, then I realised this is Reacher Light, basically, this show. And I'm happy to say I'm like 6 episodes into the 8-episode run, and it's no worse for that. That's no slight on it at all. They can only make so many episodes of Reacher in the average year. So when it's not on, I'll happily take Tracker. This is a really enjoyable show. It's nicely written, well acted.
It's the same premiere. It's the same premise as a TV show called The Finder. I don't know if you heard of that.
No, I've never heard of that.
The Finder was a spin-off of Bones.
Oh, okay.
Bones.
Who did it star? Anybody I know?
It didn't star anyone famous, but it did have. Who's the big guy? The big black guy that was in. He was in Daredevil. He played Kingpin, the movie.
Oh, he passed away several years ago.
Michael Duncan.
Yeah,
fabulous actor.
He was in it. He played a lawyer, but it's the same premise. It's about a guy that's an expert at tracking things or finding things, and it was. I actually liked it. It was the first season 1, but it didn't pick up. It didn't. People didn't watch it, so they took it off after season 1. But the premise is very similar to this one. Although, if you say this is like Reacher, a tracker, Finder wasn't. The guy that was playing me didn't beat people.
It's a slightly more sanitized,
right? Gotcha.
More episodic version of the same character, the same formula. It's got the same kind of appeal. Even the color scheme is largely the same. He lives a very similar kind of life. Apparently, this is based on a series of books as well by a writer called Jeffrey Deaver. I've seen his books in the supermarket. I know that they're very, very popular. I'm not quite sure because obviously these are hour-long episodes as well. It's not one long-running story. There are themes to it. There's a recurring question that hooks back to his family. And we do meet members of his family in it. But there's a simplicity to this, an honesty to it. It's pure entertainment, but some of the stories are very touching. Particularly when there's anything that involves children being in jeopardy, like family things. As a dad, these things. I've gone all soppy when it comes to this sort of stuff. So I get very invested in a lot of those kind of stories and themes, and so it does feel like classic American storytelling as well. This feels like it couldn't really. It's not the kind of series that could have been created and broadcast anywhere else in the world, and so it feels oddly timeless, I think.
Oh, good.
I recommend it.
I'll check that out.
Only 8 episodes, and it has been renewed already for a second season, which I think starts around October time for a full season too. So I would imagine there could be like 20 episodes, 15, 20 episodes in the next season. But he obviously gets to do a bit of porking, and he gets to do a lot of scrapping. So there's a lot of sort of bar fight kind of throwdowns in this, but there's a kind of sensitive underside to the character as well, and a family drama bubbling away in the background. I think Supernatural fans may well find something to enjoy in this as well. I know a lot of people miss that show, so I think this could be one to get on board with. So Tracker on CBS, which I think is coming to British TV in the not too distant future as well.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So I just wanted to try something that was low commitment. I didn't want to look at a series that had got 20 episodes all lined up for me to watch with all these major stars and have this mass weight of expectation around it, and then get a few episodes in and it turns out to be woke bollocks or just not very good or a bit of a chore, or it be slow, or the characters and acting to be under par because they're trying to work some sort of DEI thing. So I went for this instead, thinking it looked fairly safe, and it was a really it's a really good pick. I don't know if I'd call it a strong recommend, but it does exactly what it says on the tin. And to be honest, you don't get that much in 2024.
Like
so for that reason, I recommend it.
Is it like The Night Agent?
Not, I've never seen that. You've told me how strong that is. I get the impression it's a more bare bones version of the same kind of thing. From what you've told me, The Night Agent is a more fanciful show. It's slightly bigger world. Whereas this, the guy practically lives in a trailer. He goes from bar to bar. He's always on the highway. He's got like a t-shirt and a leather jacket and a pair of jeans to his name. So it's not anywhere near like that. It's escapism.
Right,
but it's not outlandish in any way, really.
Oh, okay. It sounds
fine.
Sounds like
fine by me.
Up my street, definitely. So I'll probably check it out anyway. So again, the premise is just like The Finder. Guy finds things, tracks things. Yeah, it's an old show. I think it was in the 80s when Bones was out. It was meant to be. It was a spin-off, but it didn't work. I kind of found it quite charming, The Finder, but it didn't work obviously with the audience. So, but this one sounds okay. But
do you think this is gonna tickle my Full Guy, 80s Full Guy sort of 18 kind of mindset? Do you think? Just
possibly, because it has got that kind of Rolling Stone man's man kind of feel to it. And although there is a supporting cast as well, so when he gets locked up, he falls foul of the local police, various states and towns that he goes to. There's a solicitor that he can ring up who'll get him out of things who he's had a one night stand with before the series starts. So they look doughy eyed at one another now and again. It's all a little bit unspoken, but it's kind of will he slip her a fatty again? It's that will he or won't he? You've got that bubbling away as well, so that's good. And he has a couple of handlers as well who sort of line up cases for him, and they're on the phone to him. There's like a tech guy as well, and you never see him in the same room as these people. And so it adds to that isolation. You feel like this character is very isolated and isolated by choice, which of course does again line up with Reacher. I can't recommend this enough. I had a lot of fun with it. But seeing as we're all talking about sort of one thing from the present and one from the past, I can't really let this go without mentioning the show that sort of changed my life in the last year. Even though it's 45 years old, I'm still deep into Dallas. I've just started season 4. Oh mate, don't rub it in. This is becoming like my spiritual home now. So I'm now, I've just started season 4 of Dallas, the super soap they used to call it. But it started in 1978, ran all the way through till 1992, and then was revived a little while later. A phenomenon of a TV show for much of that time. I watched it when it was originally on, but only from around 1983 onwards until it ended. So I had missed those original years. So I bought the box set, this enormous box set, probably the biggest box set in my collection. I bought it on Prime Day. I bought it on Prime Day last year, John. So it is huge. Yeah. And when I started it, I didn't start it for about 4 months, and because I thought, what if I've wasted my money? What if this simply isn't as good as I wish it to be? And from the very beginning, I found it tremendously enjoyable. Not only is the acting actually really good, and when I was a kid in the 80s, people used to slag the show off all the time on the quality of the acting. The acting is absolutely fine. Some of it, in fact, is excellent. But it's really, really enjoyable, engrossing, in fact. And although now I'm into season 4, and the tropes and the trappings of it being what it would become, a serial drama and a mega show, that the advertising space in this show at the time, around this time, must have been very, very expensive. So that is starting to creep in. For example, in seasons 2 and 3, some episodes would be quite self-contained. Now there's a cliffhanger and a freeze frame on somebody's face pretty much at the end of every episode. So those are the trappings of serial drama coming in, but it still feels like I'm watching something that is a show at the height of its powers. I've just sat through the Who Shot JR saga, which I was too young to watch at the time. I remember this being in the news at the time and being kind of fascinated by it because people were wearing I Shot JR t-shirts and hats, Ian, if you remember. But now I've got to watch it all sort of in real time, and I've just found it so ridiculously enjoyable. My fandom for Dallas is born again, I'm not ashamed to say.
Thing is, though, they wanted to get rid of him. The producers, the idea was that he would die because he was getting paid more than the other actors. But what Larry Hagman did, which was quite clever, he knew they were after him, so he basically moved from Dallas, where he used to live, to England, London, and he went around Europe doing every chat show he could get on, talking about Dallas and stuff like that, and he became hugely popular in Europe.
Yeah,
everywhere he went, he got mobbed, and the producers, they had no choice but to keep him and take him on because he was getting so popular. I think it was during the breakdown between when he got shot and when the show came back. I think is when he did it. I'm not sure.
I mean, I never watched it as a kid in the 80s, but when you talk about how big this show was, I would always walk into the lounge and mum and dad would have it on the telly, you know, and pretty much every kid that I knew, their parents had it on the telly. And it's got to be a cultural thing that you got to be great to be a cultural thing when you end up in The Simpsons and they do Who Shot Mr. Burns. So I just think this, I might have to give this a try, Dan, because I've done.
It's great.
Yeah, I've done obviously the Magnum PIs and those again, which I love to bits. But this just looks like great fun.
I've never seen that. I've never seen Magnum at all.
It's
do you guys
really
remember when so the after JR got shot? I remember our whole family's watching the episode when it came back, and when he got shot, he was in the hospital, and somebody asked him, "Did you?" So who shot you or whatever? I can't remember what the question was, and he went, "It was," and the whole family leaned forward, and his answer was, "It was too dark." And we all leant back and went, so it's so funny. I
always laughed at the film The Wedding Singer when the brother-in-law, what is it? He shouts out of his house, doesn't he? He goes, "Hey, someone shot JR. I think he might be dead." But what season are you on at the moment, Dan?
Just about 6 episodes into season 4. So JR has just recovered from the shooting, and they're still kind of picking up the pieces from that. And because the shooting, there's a lot that happens with the characters in the family and in the business around all of that. So it really mixes things up. And you can see the success of that entire plot line has really benefited the show. It's really, really confident. It's getting more ambitious. And I can see a point coming where perhaps it becomes a little too big for its own good. And that does worry me, because I don't want the spell to break. Right now, I feel like I'm watching a show at the height of its powers, Ian, at a point where the entire world was watching. And you can see that in it. But I'm just willing to sort of hang on in there, really, and continue with it for as long as it remains ridiculously enjoyable. Yes, so I'm heading up to the midway point of season 4, and in fact, all of the original principal cast are still locked into place there. And there's characters that sort of come in and come out, but all of the originals are still very much there, and it's just so enjoyable.
It's funny. It's funny when you talk about how big this show was, because, you know, even in the Doctor Who forums, you know, you talk to people from time to time and they'll put in the chat, and they clearly weren't around when Dallas was on, but they'll go like about Jodie Whittaker and they go, the only way they're going to be able to fix it is if they do a Bobby Ewing in the shower or something like that. You know, that's how big it is, because people remember those things, or they're passed on somehow. But was it Dallas they tried to resurrect about a decade ago?
That's right.
Yeah, they did. They did two. I think it was 2 seasons. Or was it 3
Three.
seasons?
3 seasons on the TNT channel, and it was right back to its original kind of premise. Really, it was soapy, and it was a continuing drama again. So it had those trappings, but it was a more grounded show again. It was more about people again. It wasn't as outlandish as it would eventually become, and it wasn't as showy as the series would become in the mid '80s either. It was sort of stripped back, but ridiculously enjoyable. I loved the comeback series as well. I was so disappointed when it ended.
Was it linked to the original, or was it a complete reboot?
No,
it was a
direct sequel, wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. It literally picks up with those characters, the equivalent of 18 years later.
Yeah.
Well, Barbara, what's her name? She died, so she couldn't be in it. And the guy played Jock, he died. But the rest of them, I don't think, was Victoria Principal in the new version, Dan? Do you remember?
No, she wasn't.
She was. I know
everybody else was.
Sue Ellen was.
Larry Hagman as J.R. Ewing at the height of his powers in Dallas season 4, which is what I'm rewatching at the moment. And any chance I get to bang out on about that, I'm gonna take it. But we are gonna fly now. That's enough. Yet more 80s. More 80s memories there with the General Lee flying off to herald the end of the ship. So we want to know what you think of all of this. Get in touch with us in the comments section. So are you a closeted Dallas fan or a lapsed Dallas fan from back in the day, just like me? Let us know what you think about that. Have you seen Tracker there with Justin Hartley, which I've just discovered in the last few weeks? I think it's a great show. Let me know what you think of that. Are you counting the days until Alien Romulus is released in the cinemas, or are you going to wait for that to hit streaming as well? Because it does take a lot to get me into the cinema. Results may vary and all that jazz. And what about the X-Files as well? That huge 90s show. My God, if the 80s belonged to Dallas, I'd say the 90s may well have belonged to the X-Files. How often do you revisit Mulder and Scully and the black oil and the cigarette smoking man and all of that? Or does just the thinking of it give you a massive headache? We'd like to know. And have you been to see Deadpool and Wolverine there, united at last on the big screen in the 34th Marvel Cinematic Universe movie? Let us know what you think. Ian doesn't think it's going to revive the fortunes of the MCU in cinemas at all. It could well be a last hurrah. But what do you think? Has that been enough? And do you hold any hope for Phase 6, which I think is going to kick off with that Fantastic Four movie? Let us know what you think. We're going to go right now. But Ian, if people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you on social media?
Well, they can find me. They can find me on X. I'm on X, but also the fact that Rebecca Gold. I've got like a little making of on that channel. Don't know if people have seen it. And I'm still doing Rebecca Gold season 2. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to finish it before the end of this year, but I am still pushing ahead. Hopefully, there'll be a trailer out soon in the next couple of months, because I'm shooting one segment which I can make a trailer out of. So I'll be making a trailer, but also I'll be doing an Indiegogo campaign as well. Once the trailer comes out, try and raise some extra cash so I can shoot the beginning sequence, which takes a lot of money. But that's just me in a nutshell. There you go.
And how about you, John? Where can people find you?
So I'm on X on Gallifrey11, if I don't cough. So I'm on there. And then I've also got my YouTube channel, which is Sci-Fi Chronicles, which is Sci-Fi Chronicles 779. And that's just reviewing Doctor Who from 63 to present day. And also looking into movies and shows that have been iconic over the decades. So come and say hello.
Excellent stuff. Thank you both for your company. And I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks. You can find me on X there as the Spacebook, where I'm wheezing and groaning and ranting and raving about all things geeky inside and outside of the TARDIS. After all, who'd have thought in movies, TV, comic books, and sometimes in real life too. So come and find me there and vent if you like, or just tell me your views of everything we've talked about on this edition of the show. I think we've laid it out. We've laid it out pretty well, haven't we? We've laid it out like men, in fact. So yeah, We'll see you all in the comments.